I remember when I was in orchestra because I used to play the cello. I played the cello for like 10 years, and I stopped. Actually, I suddenly stopped music to go into film. Fun fact.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, and I remember one of our instructors said to us, if you're performing and then someone comes up to you and says, "Wow, that looked hard," that's like an insult. And they said, if you play and everyone comes up to you and says, "Wow, that looked really easy. You made that look effortless," that means that you're, I never forgot that. So that crossed my mind when you said that a while ago. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot with sports, right? When you see the Olympics and everyone just doing their thing, it looks like nothing. And you try to to run a block, you pull a muscle. Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good that's a good analogy, I think. Yeah, right? Like it should look easy, right? Where yeah, I think I won't speak for Robbie, but I know Roberto and I probably can't keep up.
No, please. No, no, no. I'm the last one. Honestly, I think sometimes I'm so rigid with my schedule because I know I just know myself, this is very off subject in a way, but I'm someone who I've learned that I have to be honest because when you're not honest, your face gives you away. So it's like trying to be as genuine as possible. And it's not to say that like you're brutal, right, or cutthroat in any way, but and this leads through to the concept of like your effort and your passion showing through your work. But I think that's also like the essence of who I am as a person is like it was a thing when I was a kid. Your mom runs up to you and says, "Fix your face. Fix your face." Because you're upset, right? And this is the same with the creative work. It's like, yeah, let me fix my face. Mm.
I like that. That's smart though. Yeah. That's a good analogy, I think. But yeah, I think like you said, you definitely have to be honest with at least the conceit of what you're saying, right? Like you still want to be polite. There's no need not to, you don't have to be rude, but you still want to at least speak the truth of what you mean, right?
Wait.
uh,
Mhm.
harder, easier said than done a lot of times, but it's a good virtue to try to hold, to
Yeah.
try to hold.
Keyword try. But
Yeah,
wow,
exactly.
this is looking good, Roberto. This is looking good. It's coming together.
Yeah, I'm always jealous of the ability to whip these together in a limited time.
Right. Very like what we were talking about. He makes it look easy. Like, jeez. Mm.
So Rob, you're in Atlanta. I've spent a whole weekend in Atlanta, just the once. I came for the MLS All Star game a long time ago. But I made the mistake of not renting a car. So I was stuck
Oh,
downtown.
yikes. Oh,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was a mistake. But so no, I don't know the point. My point being, I don't know anything about Atlanta. I know that there's a lot of so Toronto. I'm in Toronto. A lot of film here. My wife even works in film. Like, seems to be a good market here. My understanding is Atlanta is the same. Am I wrong in thinking that? Or
Actually, so when I was in college, I distinctly remember the Avengers being filmed at, I think, Hurt Park, right across from our college building. So Georgia State University is literally downtown Atlanta. There is no wall or actual college campus. It like anyone can walk onto the campus because it's in the heart of the city. And so likewise, you could be walking to class like I was on several occasions, and you'd see films being made. You'd see roads being blocked off because they were shooting scenes all the time. And yes, actually, as I was going throughout college, Atlanta really rose up in the film industry. They had Baby Driver. I mean, everything you could think of that was releasing over a span of years was at some point filmed in Atlanta. And it was actually a game I like to play to see if I could spot a scene that was filmed in Atlanta, even if the film was located in New York, because there are areas that kind of look reminiscent of that. Um, and I got actually some work as a production assistant years ago, with some of those film sets, and you still see it sometimes. I think that since the pandemic hit, things slowed down a little bit. Um, but it has been a film hub for a little bit as well. So
Nice. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we play the same game here with all the same Toronto for New York a lot of times. Yeah, that's
right.
pretty common. I think we also took a lot of the Star Trek. I don't think. We took a lot of the Star Trek productions here, so,
Oh, oh,
aside from the good one. So, like, Picard is, I think was in LA. We got, like, Discovery and Strange New World. Anyway, but, so, yeah, we got a little bit, here too. I mean, the dollar helps. Everything's a 30% discount, so, that's pretty
right.
good. Yeah, but it's interesting because I guess Atlanta has the benefit of, like, you guys your winters are much less or much more mild than ours can be. Ours aren't horrible, but we get snowed in occasionally, right? I don't
Mhm.
think that's happening so much in Atlanta. I think you guys get snow infrequently, if at all.
The last time we really had snow, when I was in college, we called it snowpocalypse. That was 2014, and they shut down all of Atlanta. Like, cars were stranded on the road. I remember walking we were really ice skating from class to my dorm and seeing cars sliding downhill. Like, people abandoned their cars. They couldn't handle the snow at all. So, yeah, we don't get snow at all.
Yeah, it's a different world. Okay. Yeah, we got made fun of because we had to call in the military in, like, I think it was, like, 97, 99. It was a long time ago, and we still get made fun of because we had to call the military because it snowed too much and we had nowhere to put it. Where Montreal, they, like, truck it out. Like, we didn't have such plans, so we needed help. And to this day, it's brought up, like, "Oh, you guys aren't real Canadian. You don't know how to handle snow." So, yeah, a little bit
Jeez.
climate-wise.
Canadian car revoked, huh? Man.
Yeah, yeah, but Toronto gets all the grief, to be fair. The whole country hates us for being here, so what can you do?
I look, I like Toronto. I don't know if it's any consolation. I like Toronto. I had to fly in, I think when I was going to France, and I think when I was going to Japan on 2 different occasions, I had a flight. I used Air Canada, which was very nice,
Nice.
by the way. Um, and both times I ended up in Toronto at some point, and I liked it. So know that I
Well,
have
that's
love in my heart for Toronto.
that's awesome. You gotta come for the film festival. That's the best time. I've been going every year for 20 years. I yeah, I
Ooh.
it of all the film festivals, it's the most populist one. Like, you're there with
Mhm.
crowds, where all the other ones are
Mhm.
kinda, you know, you get either if public is allowed in, it's people who are film geeks, like, they're there because they love it, and that's good. You get a lot of that in
Mhm.
Toronto too, but it's open to everyone. But you're getting, like, a true
Mhm.
sense of, like, how this film's gonna do in a broader sense, right? Like, the People's Choice Award, I think, has predicted a Best Picture nomination for the past, I don't even know how many years now, just because of that. It's just the people here. It's just a broad base of, like, who's out there to watch the films, right? So, yeah, it's different. It's a
Interesting.
different vibe than some of the others because we have the other film festivals too, and those are much more like the typical, former film students like myself going and right,
Mhm.
like,
Right,
being
right.
a little more hoity-toity about it. But, yeah, TIFF is like the everyone festival. So, that like, yeah, but,
Noted.
one day you gotta hopefully you get a film in, and then that's why you're here. But, if not, just come to visit. Well worth it.
Speaking it into existence. I'll make that happen.
Yeah, Midnight Madness. If you're in the Midnight Madness, you gotta remember me, let me know because 'cause I'll be there. I'll be there anyway, but definitely definitely let me know I can come say hi
Noted,
after.
noted. Ah. So I guess I'm curious. What was your experience with film school, and what was something that you like? I know you're interviewing me, and now I'm interviewing you. If you don't mind humoring me for a second.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a conversation. I'm happy to I'm happy to talk about myself. Um, so yeah, so I went to one of those, like, uh, how can I say it? Yeah, so the idiom I always heard is if your school has to advertise, then it's probably not a good school. I went to one of those.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
so
Oh
it
god.
was a good it was like a year and a half. Um, it was in our CBC building. So like CBC is like
Mhm,
our national broadcaster. And so it was in
mhm,
that building. So we had studio access. And
mhm,
when I went was a while ago, so we were still learning with like the RE cameras, like doing our,
mhm,
35 millimeter, 16 was what they really gave us because it's cheaper. Um, Digital was new. So with our mini DV cameras and all that, and there's still that whole debate of like film is better, it's warmer and all that, whatever. Different time. But
mhm, mhm,
but yeah, it was a good hands-on experience. Um, but the one thing it lacked was the path. Like, had I known that I just have to PA for a while, right? And like that's the path in, I would have done that. But nobody really gave you that path. It was just, oh, okay, you're here, make your thesis film and get out, right? So I ended up
mhm,
volunteering, like I
mhm,
mentioned, for hockey. Like our hockey league here is the Ontario Hockey League. So I used to go shoot that on the weekend and stuff, and that was fun. I'm a big hockey fan, so that was a thrill, but it wasn't film, it was television. And yeah,
mhm,
there wasn't
mhm.
money in it. So I ended up, eventually I slowly dropped out and ended up in the boring corporate job. So yeah,
Mhm.
it was just a
No,
slow death.
I understand that actually because for Georgia State, my graduating class of 2020, gosh, wow, when did I graduate? 2016 and then 2018. Um we were actually kind of barred from a lot of the productions that took place around our campus. So we were watching it, but we were not allowed to be on set and we were not really put on set. It was not part of the program. It's just something that happened to happen and we just happened to see it. And I think like a handful of kids were able to get onto larger film sets. I didn't even when I ended up working on the set for The First Ladies, I had graduated and I had been doing a number of smaller film gigs for like a while. And
Mhm.
someone I was doing boom op work, so I was that person who stands off in the corner of the room and tries their hardest to be as quiet as possible and hold your arms up for as long as possible. And someone saw me and was just like, "You do really well in a larger film set," and they recommended me, to the First Ladies, and I ended up on that, and I had to get, like, a walkie-talkie, and I had to get all these things, but it was really through word of mouth. That was not something that they taught us in film school, unfortunately, and I think they might have changed that now. They've done more of an effort to plug the kids into opportunities, but with our graduating class, um, it you did kind of feel like I know kids who kind of they graduated, they never used their film degree because there wasn't that path. For me,
Mm.
before I even went into film with my business, I was doing concert videography in the K-pop industry because I went to Korea and I knew Korean. I approached someone and asked them if they needed videography and they brought me on. And that's what I was doing before I got onto the larger film sets. So I understand.
Well, that's a cool path though. I respect that. But yeah, but your point your point is really well made. It Yeah, it's all about the connections, like, so I mentioned briefly my wife is actually in the film industry. She works in television, she works in the costume, side of things,
Mhm,
but she
mhm,
started working for the ballet. The ballet, someone there got a gig on a show, took her with her, and then that just flourished into now she's working regularly in film, right? But it
mhm,
was
mhm,
that first link, that first connection was never really made, and there wasn't an opportunity to do it, and not dissimilar to you, it's like there's all these film productions going on, like, all around, but there's no,
mhm,
well, here's how you can PA, here's how you can whatever, here's something,
mhm.
here's a path for you. It was just, "Thank
Right.
you for coming, you got to make a film. I hope that was a good calling card, good luck." Right? Yeah, that was that was it. I got
Yeah.
an IMDb page. That was cool, but about the that's about as far as it got for me, so no regrets. I
Yeah.
mean, we all kinda end up where we end up, but yeah, it was a slog, and it took a while for me to really accept that, like, "Okay, maybe this isn't where I belong or what I wanna do." Um, but that led me
Mhm.
I was always even in film school, I was documentaries about comics and stuff, so not for the regular day job, I could never get into comics. I wouldn't be here talking to you and watching Roberto put this comic together. So, you know,
I was
everything.
about to say, it fell into place because you were still en route to something that you're passionate about, and I think that that is more than most people can say. Um, Part of the reason why I got into the K-pop stuff is because working my day job, my other day job, where I was working at an elementary school, parapro with kids who would flick boogers at me and throw applesauce and apple juice at me. um, Aside from that, was like I was like, that's very unfulfilling. Like, what can I do? What can I add to my plate to give myself more of a sense of fulfillment? Um, and that was where I ended up adding on that job doing K-pop work. And I remember waking up at 4, leaving the house, getting to work at 7, working from 7 to 3, then leaving that job and driving to another part of Georgia and working from 6 to midnight, then driving from almost like Duluth to Temple and getting home at like 1, sleeping until 4. And I did that for like months. And I did that because I just wanted something that gave me a sense of fulfillment. And so I think you have that with this comic series. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it sounds like you have the passion for it.
Yeah, yeah, I think we got there, but yeah, I can't say I put in the work the way you did. That sounds like a lot, but much respect for pulling that off. Yeah, even a few months is a
Thank
lot.
you.
Yeah, that's intense, but it sounds like, it's paying off now. You seem to be in a really good place, and yeah, you're getting a lot done, which is really impressive to see.
Make no mistake though, it sounds like a cool process, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like sliding down a jagged hill full of rocks. Is what that felt like. So it's in hindsight, I think you see the process, right?
That's
Just being honest, right?
yeah, that's exactly it. That it's yeah, while you're in it, it's the worst thing. It's after that you're like, "Oh, okay, like that led me here," right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a while to appreciate it though. Okay, so I was gonna ask about the K-pop stuff. So, um, I'm I'm by no means I don't know anything. I I went to 2 BTS concerts. That's that's my that's the best I've done. Um, but but I'm very interested in you know, uh, the whole scene. I'm not gonna claim to know anything about anything. Um, I when I have my playlist of folks that I like. Any is there anyone that you worked with that's interesting, or was it all like startups or
So the company I was with brought in a lot of they were kind of, I would say they were smaller, but it depends. Like here in Atlanta, there's a kid who I knew him back when he went by the name Harold, and now he goes by Bomhan, and he was on TV shows in Korea. One of his friends is also currently on a TV show. Back then, he was part of a group called Mod. I worked with people that I actually listened to their music when I was in college. I worked with an artist named BY. I worked with Oh My Girl. I worked with the group Mont. And with Mont, I went on tour to Chicago, Atlanta, Texas, California. And I did all of this while having my day job. So really the way that worked out was I worked my job at the elementary school, and during spring break, we went on tour, and then I went back to my regular job. Um, and it was a lot of, I'm telling you, it sounds cool, but it was actually very stressful because although my Korean was enough for me to be able to get A's in Korean class, talking to a Korean and then listening to a recording in Korean class where they say 안녕하세요. 저는 로비입니다 is totally different from talking to a Korean artist who's flown in jet lagged and they're at the airport and they're like, eh, 그게 줘. It's completely different. It's completely different. And it was stressful because it challenged my Korean, linguistic skills in a way that, like, I still remember some moments where I don't know, and Roberto, I don't know if you can relate to this, where certain people, their vocal register, if they have a certain vocal register, sometimes it's hard to understand them. And I had a woman who spoke to me and she had the vocal register of a mouse. So when she talked to me, I would almost like just start to disassociate. I couldn't understand her. So it was fun, but it had its challenges, definitely.
yeah, that's impressive though. Again, like you said, it's at the time, it must have been a lot, but that's some serious life experience you got there. Sounds like there's a ton of stories to tell, which is great.
Thank you.
I wonder, does any of that come out in your work, do you find? Or are you taking these experiences and adapting them? It doesn't obviously not like for like, but are you finding even just the feelings that you've had in these times are making it into your work?
Oh yes, definitely. Because our main character, because she's learning about her world, Claire Belkeda, she's very sheltered and really, her village is destroyed. She goes on this journey of revenge and she starts learning about family secrets that were kept from her, the world around her, and realizing how she was really kept under a rock. And that process of like not knowing anything and people being like, why don't you know that? Or where are you struggling with that? Definitely is thrown in there sometimes. Um, I would also say in a weird way, and it's gonna come out farther in the series, but there is actually like a pop idol that kind of gets mentioned in the series. And it's not like she's just randomly thrown in there. It ties into the story, but I was like, well, let's have a nice, shiny, futuristic pop idol with like holographic performances and all these kinds of things. I felt that I've seen enough of that to be able to depict that accurately. It's not like it's the center of the story, but that definitely does bleed in.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fair. That's again coming from you who's like lived it, right? Well, it'll come truer than somebody who's saw it in a movie and is reproducing what they saw. Now it's a photocopy of a photocopy, right? Like from you, it's gonna come through a lot more true. So even if you're seeing that elsewhere, from you, it's gonna be a totally different experience than, from someone who does it because it's trendy or something like that, right? So
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
it's the right approach, I think. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Right on. So film, manga, and then you mentioned cello. What other skills are you keeping under your hat that you're not telling us?
Gosh, well, I think the voice actor for Shao Kahn, I met him because I used to be a radio station DJ at my college radio station. That was back when it was owned by the college. It was Alden 88.5. Um, and I did that job while also doing telemarketing, which I ended up using the telemarketing skills to help me with the Indiegogo for this manga. I never thought that skill would ever come in handy. Um, but here we are. So, yeah.
Yeah, telemarketing's the worst. I'll vouch for that. I I think I did it for a day and I quit. I don't even remember if I made it the full day. It was yeah, I don't recommend anybody do it, but yes, you can take something from it, which is you will have the thickest of skins. Between that and door-to-door sales, which I did for much longer, that's another one when people are slamming doors in your face. It becomes a lot easier to stand at a con and be like, "Hey, do you like comics?" And they say no and keep walking, and your feelings don't get hurt the same way once you've been doing door-to-door sales for a long time or telemarketing. So it's good practice, but like the theme of this whole episode, have fun while you're doing it.
500%. Ay.
Definitely doesn't pay what it's worth for sure.
Oh, no, man. It was pennies. I think, I ended up in a situation with, my university where they said they would help pay part of your tuition. And I did it for, like, 3 months, and I remember, I think, like, the first month just, like, struggling. 'Cause and I don't blame you for, like, not making it through the day because I wanted to quit, but I was like, "Man, ugh, I need this money." So I did it, and it was just awful, and finally, I got to a point where I started paying attention to a guy in our office who worked at Enterprise, but and he did the telemarketing work on the side, and I watched him, and he had, like, memorized the script, and he'd turn around and, like, face the window that we had overlooking the city, and he would just recite the whole script in the most conversational way, and I, like, took notes, I'm like, "Okay, so that's how he's doing it." And I got better at it to where when I finally left, my manager was actually very upset, was just like, "You can't use me as a reference," which is funny because I really never needed to later on anyways, but I've later found out that she was so upset because the day that I quit was the day that they had processed the tuition payments. So I got the tuition paid and I got the paychecks and I left. So,
You timed it perfectly from the sounds of it.
yeah, not by my design. It was an internship opportunity that came up and I was told I had to quit like on the spot so I could get it like the next day. So,
That worked out great though. That's awesome.
right. Gosh, yeah. But I think that also, in terms of the arts, there's a certain level of development that you have as a person when you rely on other people to fill certain gaps and spaces for you in your process. And that can be with like a team, right? Working as a duo, like you and Roberto. Um, you as a person don't just have to know how to extend grace to yourself as creative, but you have to know and be intuitively in tune with your team. Um, because as humans, so many things influence our output, right? So yeah, I say that I'm grateful, even as that is like not my forte, that it allows you to have a sense of connection because you rely on someone, you get to communicate with them, you get to share this vision, and it becomes something where you co-collaborate together. And that is so important, the creative process. Sometimes you dictate in other aspects of life, but when it comes to creative processes, when you have someone said to me, excited co-creators or co-collaborators, it's really something.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it definitely brings you out something that you couldn't on your own, right? Like, you could try, you could, you could hope that it'll come out the same, but yeah, the truth is, like, that collaboration is gonna create something that you would never, right? You would never be able to do just by yourself. So,
Exactly.
um, yeah, there's definitely a benefit to it. Um, that not everybody cares to realize, I would say even, right? Like, a lot of times I find people are hesitant to, uh, what's the word? Like, they don't wanna spoil their vision. Their vision is so
Mhm, mhm.
set the thing exact that if somebody else puts their fingers on it, it's no longer it. Like, yeah, but that, I guess then you should be writing a novel, but even then you need an editor. So, I don't know. Any art form has some other input at some point, right? Like, if it's going to
Right.
be anything different, that's it's the mixing that makes it interesting, right? So,
Really.
that's it, so,
Mhm.
yeah, solo artists aren't solo artists even if they're doing it right, like, you have an editor, you have somebody giving you advice, if you care to do it right, I find yeah. But if you just wanna do what you wanna do and put it out there, well, don't be mad when not everybody connects, right?
You're right. It's true.
But yeah, comics are a little more, um, singular in that way. I mean, if you write and draw, arguably, you're doing a lot of it on your own, but again, you could be editing, but you get an editor to help you, you could do whatever, to at least get that
Mhm.
second set of eyeballs on it, um but you have a lot more control than you do on film. Like film, I guess just because of the money involved, right? Like there's just so many hands. And then, all the actors, all the crew, they all have a hand in it. Even the boom operator, you know, where
Mhm.
they're not
Mhm.
holding back boom right. They've put their mark on it, even though their job is not to be heard, but arguably they can put their mark on it too. But yeah, you need the community for film. It's a totally different world for sure.
It brings me to like the audition process for not even just the audition, but like the table read and the rehearsal process for Kalimba that I had the film that I was talking about earlier. The part of what made that process so fun was and then this was me realizing, when I did my research as a director, your goal is not to tell people what you want. It's not to tell them how to be. I realized that the filmmaking process is like a canvas, and then you sketch out maybe two or three other canvases on that canvas, and then you bring in the actors and you say, I want you to paint something red. I want you to paint something yellow. I want you to paint something blue. And they all have their own interpretation of what that red, yellow, and blue will look like or how it'll come out. But it's them putting their style of your instructed color into that canvas to make the overall oeuvre, right? The work. Um, and with the table read and rehearsal process, I found that getting the actors to understand the characters and then letting them bring their interpretation um, was what was most rewarding. It was not the absolute dictatorship of every single detail as much as you have a clear vision, right? Part of that joy was found in and being able to take in other people's interpretation. One of our actresses, she had 3 different interpretations of one character, and we had room to film all 3 interpretations, which was crazy to me because this is a difficult character in general. But that, like, things like that, it makes me think about that. It's very rewarding when you get to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's like you said, it's getting everyone in and collaborating. Like that's the magic, right? Like you need that combination to make the thing special. Otherwise, like again, solo artists can do what they do, but it's really that's what makes or breaks something is if you have a good team who gets it. It's still they're working together and pulling together to kind of make something special. Everyone has to be into it too.
Mm.
Kind of go back to what we were saying before about, you got to bring your happy face if you're gonna do it right. And that's hard when you have
Mhm.
a large team of people working on something that not everybody's gonna be at their best every day at the same time. But you strive for that. That might be the difference, right?